I shut everybody out 2023. I had nobody to talk to except family. I had no friends. I fuck a relationship. Like, you know what I mean? Like, all I cared about was getting my kids back.
So thank you guys for watching another episode of Daddy Issues. Our guest today is going to introduce himself and tell us a little bit about his story.
How's it going, guys? My name is David, from New Jersey. I mean, just kind of like a lot of people, man. I just, I got together with my ex-wife, now ex-wife, when I was 19. Kind of like that young, dumb love, many red flags, but it was just one of those, like, you didn't want to listen to anybody.
Yeah.
You just kind of, you don't know what you're talking about. Um, we ended up having our first child, and I kind of thought things would get better and progress better. It didn't. We really had issues. She really kind of listened to a lot of her friends from high school and things like that. And we ended up having our second child. And I was at work, and I got a call saying that she is going to the abortion clinic to abort our second child.
Oh, she was pregnant and she wanted to go. Wow.
Yeah, so I was an hour away from my house, and that's the call I got. Um, and she's like, my best, well, at the time, her best friend was, she's like, so and so is going to take me. We're heading there now. And I'm I've never cried that hard in my life. And
Yeah.
I was like, yo, like, if this isn't what you want, like, give me my child and I'm out.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care. I don't want anything from you. If you don't want nothing to do with the baby, just give me my son and I'm out. And she turned her phone off, and I didn't hear from her for the rest of the day. So from that moment, had the realization that, at the moment I came to the realization I didn't have a child anymore.
Yeah.
And I got home, and she's crying, and she didn't go through with it. So she never told me she didn't do it. So I went my entire workday a mess, thinking that my son was aborted, and I got home and it didn't happen.
Yeah, that phone call just in general is a mind fuck game. It's like, why
Oh,
even make
dude.
that phone call and tell me
Yeah.
that?
hmm
Yeah.
And it's like, it's one thing when you call and you say something, but like, that's just like on another level of like, what the fuck is
Yeah.
wrong with you? Like, but, fast forward, being in Jersey, you're in New Hampshire, so it's close.
Yeah.
So Jersey's expensive, what I mean? Let's be honest. Um, so we came together and we were like, look, we got to figure something out. We need to change, for us, our family, like, we just need to change. So we ended up deciding on moving to Tennessee. We bought a house in Tennessee, moved down there. Things were great. Um, you know, um, Fast forward a couple years, we sold our first house, bought a second house, and like, we ended up officially getting married. And I think we both knew that the marriage was a bad idea, but it was, again, one of those, like, maybe this will fix things.
Right. And this was down in Tennessee after
Yeah.
you guys are like doing good. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was like, hey, even like the past issues, like, maybe this will help us. Maybe that title will change something in this relationship. Well, I was working, and I said, you know what, like, I want to do better for all of us. So I was working full time on top of going to school. And I went to Chattanooga State and got my associates in computer science. So I'm going to school and I'm trying to do everything that I needed to do for my family. On the back end, my kids are real big sports kids, and they both played travel baseball. Well, I started a baseball team down there, and she was talking to my assistant coach behind my back. And
Oh my God.
so I'm going to practice and everything, and I'm practicing with this guy who also is married. He's married too. He had three kids, and they were talking to each other behind my back. I had no clue.
And then you're going to see him at the practices and nothing happened.
Yeah, the one of the worst parts, dude, is so we had a game. Like we were so close. I watched his kids, he watched my kids. I took his kids places, he took my kids places. Like it was just like a good friendship, you know?
Yeah.
Well, at one of the games, his son's a pitcher, and the kid hit the ball, and it took about a bad bounce off the mound and hit him in the face. So he got like a minor concussion and things like that. Well, he needed to be taken to the hospital. I sat at the hospital for almost 5 hours with his son to get an MRI done while he's talking to my wife,
Wow.
because he couldn't take off work. So I went and I picked it because I was off that day. I went and picked his son up from school, took him to the hospital, and sat there for like almost 4 hours, 5 hours until they gave him a CAT scan and MRI. And so or I had a feeling
Hmm.
because we were both friends on Facebook, whatever.
You had a feeling it was him?
Yeah, I did, and the reason I had a feeling it was him because I knew something was up because she was just acting weird,
Yeah.
and it was just like that pit in your stomach. You're like something's not right, and so he would send her like videos and things like that, and be like, "Oh, hey, show David this. Oh, hey, show David this," and it's like, "Bitch, we're friends on Facebook. Like you have my cell phone. Like, why are you not? Why are you sending it to my wife?" And she's like, "Oh, hey, so and so wants you to see this." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." Well, it got to the point where she was like, I would catch her looking at my phone, going through my phone. Well, I didn't do anything, so I didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
So fast forward again, I woke up on a Friday or Thursday. I'm sorry. I woke up on a Thursday, and it was January 3rd. I'll never forget this. January 3rd. And she's going through my phone, and I was like, "What are you doing?" And she took my phone and she chucked it at me, and it hit me in my chin and in my jaw, like my chin and my collarbone. And I had a knot from my phone. She hit me with my phone so hard, and I sat up and I put my glasses on, and she smacked me in my face. And she's like, "What the fuck?" And I was like, What is going on? Like it's 8 o'clock in the morning, and like what is going on?" And we got into this big old argument, man. And she called the cops and told the cops that I grabbed her by her throat and I lifted her off the ground and I was choking her.
Oh my God.
So I was like, okay. I was like, I'm leaving because I'm not doing this. So whatever. And then down in Tennessee, you can have guns. And at one point, I did have guns. And she's like, the lady on the phone was like, "Does he have any weapons?" And she's like, "Well, he has guns. I just don't know where they are." Like she knew that I sold my guns. And I'm like, "Are you?"
Oh, but making
Yeah,
it more
like,
scary than it is. Yeah.
and I'm like, "Are you trying to get me shot here? Like, what the hell?" So I was
Yeah.
like, "All right, so I'm gonna go sit on the porch. Like, I'm gonna go sit on the porch. I'm gonna smoke. I'm just gonna."
Yeah.
So sheriff comes in. There's no marks on her neck. I'm bleeding I have a scar on my face. She broke one of the, those long mirrors on the back of the door. Well, she
Yep.
slammed the
Yep.
door. She slammed the door and it broke. And I was like, "I'm leaving." And she's like, "No, no, you're not going anywhere." And she picked up glass and threw it in my face.
And this is all over. Just you don't even know yet. Like she's just pissed off.
I don't even know what this argument is about. At this point in
Wow.
time, I didn't even catch them talking. So anyway, so I'm bleeding out of my face. My lip is bleeding. I have a knot on my chin and my collarbone. I have scratch marks on my shoulder. And she's like, "Oh, he hit me. He grabbed me," but there's no marks on her. So the
Right.
sheriff looks at me and goes, "Mr. Garvin, do you mind just leaving until things cool down?" I was like, "I tried to do that 20 minutes ago." Like, whatever. So she put a restraining order on me and my kids. And I'm driving around. I went and got food, and I'm just driving around. And my buddy, who works for the city, he goes, "Hey man, where you at?" I was like, I was like, "Right now, dude, I'm heading." I was like, "I'm on 75 going to Knoxville." I was like, "I don't know what I'm doing. If you want me to be honest with you, I don't know." And he goes, "Well, cops are looking for you." And I said, "Huh?"
No way.
And he goes, "They're trying to serve you papers." I said, "Serve me papers for what?" And what is it called? Like an expedited
Yeah.
restraining order.
Which is funny that the cop. First of all, it's a great plug to have that guy
Yeah,
in the city
yeah.
like that. But it's funny that the cops saw
Mm-hmm.
no marks on her, and then still proceeded to
Yep.
do the restraining order?
Well, and you know what's funny too is the guy that gave me the restraining order. I was sitting there. I sat in Waffle House parking lot for almost 2 hours talking to this guy. Cool as hell. He's like, dude, I went through
Yeah.
it. He goes, I'm a sheriff for the city. He goes, and
Shit, my bad.
oh, you good. He goes, I'm a sheriff for the city, and my ex-wife claimed that I beat her. He goes, and the judge that I work for, who knows me, granted her the restraining order. I said, are you fucking kidding me? He goes, yeah. He goes, I had to go through this whole thing. He goes, it took me almost 6 years to get full custody of my children. And I
Wow.
said, dude, I was like, you got to be kidding me. So at the time I have nowhere to go, so I'm staying at a hotel. She blocked me on, like she took me off of our bank account. She withdrew all like cash advanced all our credit cards, all of this shit. So I'm broke essentially. I ended up having to sell my truck, my motorcycle, all my stuff just to get by. Um,
Wow.
I paid my lawyer. I didn't see my kids for 6 months. Um, I didn't see my kids for 6 months.
And how old were they then?
My kids, they were 11 and 8, and
Oh wow.
they're 13 and 10 now.
Yeah, so 6 months is a long time for those kids to not have their dad.
Yeah, and I've always been there for my kids. I didn't have a dad growing
Yeah.
up. It was just me, my mom, and my sisters. So I know what it's like. And so I've always, my dream was always like coach my kids in sports or, do that type of thing. And
Yeah.
so anyway, we're going back and forth to court, back and forth to court, back and forth to court. She kicked me out on the 3rd of January of 2023. Sunday, he was fully moved into my house. Yeah, this guy.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And how I found that out was because, dude, I immediately went to my therapist. I was depressed beyond belief. I had
Yeah.
anxiety, like I was having anxiety attacks. I'm sitting there, I'm shaking. I couldn't trust anybody because the one guy I did trust just had an affair with my wife. Um, and so I was on my anxiety and depression medication. Well, before I found out, I just filled my script and he knew that. Well, he called me one day. He goes, hey man, what are you doing? Now, mind you, he called me at like midnight and I'm just sitting up. And he goes, oh, hey, dude, what are you doing up? And I'm like, first off, you called me. Second off, I don't know because I just got kicked out of my house and I don't know what the fuck is going on. Um, and he was just asking me random questions. And it just started adding up. And he was like, oh, well, he goes, did you take your Xanax today? And I said, yeah. He goes, you have Xanax left? I said, yeah. He goes, you haven't taken all your Xanax? I said, why, dude? You want Xanax or something? Like, what? Like, what? He goes, are you? He goes, what the fuck? You trying to sell me Xanax? I said, okay, dude, we're not doing this. I said, what is this
He's setting
conversation?
you up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just had a gut feeling. So I did some digging and I essentially hacked her Facebook. And there were months of text messages and pictures and this and that.
Unbelievable.
Her telling him that my kids would be so much happier without me in the picture. My kids would be so much happier if he was their coach and not me. My kids would be so much happier if they woke up to him in the house instead of me, and all this shit. Now, mind you, November of 2022, I paid for us to go to Cancun, and we stayed there for a week. So we were doing all these family events and all these family pictures and all that stuff. She was talking to him at that time, telling him like, oh, I wish you were down here and this and this. Like, oh, I can't wait for us to take a family trip together. I can't wait for just all this shit.
Dude, what did you feel like when you read that shit? Because like I can only imagine that would rip my heart out.
Bro, so I was with her for 14 and a half years.
Wow.
And it's a pain that is undescribable. Um, like you ever read or seen something, you're like, this ain't real. Like this can't be real.
Yeah.
Like this cannot be. Like Like I had to read it
Right. It's just
again.
so crazy.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had to read it 1,000 times because I was just taking screenshots because I was like, oh, I'm taking this to my lawyer. And so I'm
Yep.
taking like screenshots and I'm like reading these screenshots and I'm like, and I'm shaking and I'm like, there's no way. And at that point in time, after that happened, I went off the rails. I was, I just didn't know what to do. I was right across the street from a liquor store, and every single day I would get a bottle of Jameson and I would just take it to the head.
Wow.
I was drunk every night. I can't tell you how many times I had my mom on the phone and she would just sit there and hear me screaming to this bed or screaming to this pillow and like punch holes in the wall and fucking break this and break that. And just, I just didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
I shut everybody out 2023. I had nobody to talk to except family. I had no friends. I fuck a relationship. Like, you
Right.
know what I mean? Like, all I cared about was getting my kids back. And it finally got to the point to where I got my own apartment and all that stuff. And I was really excited. I finally got my kids back. Um, and I didn't realize how hard getting my kids back was going to be.
Hmm.
And I would sit there in my apartment, and it's crazy how loud silence is. Like it's, you know, I spent my whole young adult life with my kids like dad, 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 or running through the house yelling at each other and playing this or doing this. But then you sit in your apartment alone and it's quiet,
Yeah.
and you wish they were there. Well, I had a mental breakdown because so I had surgery because I did commercial roofing, so I got like skin cancer. So they took it out and gave me OxyContin for the pain. That was a bad idea. So I was on the phone with a friend of mine who's really been a friend, and I found that out through this whole situation that he's the real one, you know.
Yeah.
And I was on the phone with him, and I'm just crying. I was like, dude, I don't know what to do. And so at the time, I had 13 oxys, and I took them all. I took them all.
Oh shit.
I said, fuck this, I'm out. I'm checking out. I'm done. Checking out. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. And, you know, that was basically my goodbye to him. And I told him I appreciated him and all that shit. And I sat on my bed and I had a bottle of Jameson and I took fucking 13 oxys. And I remember shit getting hazy. I remember the room spinning and I remember just going to sleep. I wake up in the hospital. They ended up having to pump my stomach. They had me on IVs, all this shit. And I woke up. And what saved me, they said, was the bottle got a little wet. So the pills were a little soggy. So I was kind of like scooping them out, kind of.
Yeah.
So it lost some of their potency. So some of the pills were fine, other pills were not. So I just took them. And I ended up in the hospital. And I remember waking up and he's sitting there. My friend that I told you about, he's sitting there. And I immediately start crying. He starts crying. He's crying because I woke up. I'm crying because I woke up.
Right.
And it's like, dude, I finally manned up. I finally did it. Like, I finally tried. And you fucking saved me. Like shit. Like, now I got to go through this. Now I got to deal with this on top of what I'm dealing with. So that stressed me out more. It got back to her. They took my kids away again. Um, had to go to therapy. Had to go to drug therapy, like, you
Yeah.
know, recovery thing. I had to do all this shit, man. We went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Got my kids back for a little bit longer. I ended up running out of money, couldn't pay my lawyer. Um, One day I went to go pick them up and she never showed up. And I was like, what the fuck? Well, rumor got around town that I was doing drugs again. I wasn't. I was clean. And so she just stopped giving me my kids without a court order saying that it's okay for her not to give them to me,
Yeah.
and which is illegal. But the court,
Right.
but the
Contempt, but you don't have money to pay for that.
exactly. So when we went
Yeah.
back to court, the judge didn't do shit and ordered me to go and I had to get a nail bed test. I had to get a hair follicle test. I had to take a urine sample. I had to take a I had blood work, all this shit.
Jesus.
I had to do every drug test you could possibly think known to man. I had to take it. And when it came back negative of everything. But I didn't have the money to go back to court for with a lawyer.
Right.
So that is currently what I'm doing now. I have not seen my kids in a year.
Oh my God.
Yep.
And they're at such like they're at that age where they
Yep.
need like what are they saying? Like are they do they miss you? Do they get to call you? Like is their mom just alienating? Is the
Dude,
guy still there? Like
oh, the guy's still there. The guy's still there.
wow.
And so my mom talks to them. So my last court date with that I could pay my lawyer, my last court date I had to sign my kids 100% to her. I had
Oh man.
and at the time I had no choice. Like
Yeah.
there was like you're not leaving until you sign these papers. So and it pissed me off because I'm sitting there and I told the dude, I said, "How dare you?" Like I almost got arrested for contempt. I was like, "How dare
Yeah.
you?" I was like, "Dude, you don't know me and I don't know you." I said, "You don't know what kind of father I am." I was like, "You don't know what I would do for my fucking kids." I said, "But you hear some bullshit ass allegations, no proof whatsoever that I
Yeah.
assaulted her or did any domestic violence, anything to her, and you're granting her my kids." I was like, you've known me for 5 minutes and you've already assumed that I'm a terrible father. I was
100%.
like, I was like,
Yeah.
I was like, what kind of character does that make you? He's like, Mr. Garvin, if you don't quit, I'm gonna hold you in contempt. I said, so hold me in contempt. I said, this is bullshit.
Yeah.
And so they gave me my papers, and I'm at the podium, and I'm courtroom full of people, and I am bawling because I'm shaking. I'm having a panic attack. I'm shaking. I don't want to sign these papers because I know like I'm looking at these numbers, and it says her name, and it says custody 100%, my name 0%, like, and I'm
Man.
looking at all of this shit, and I have no say in anything. And so I'm shaking, I'm signing these papers, and he's like, Mr. Garvin, we have other cases. I need you to sign those papers now. So like it's like, dude, you act like I'm just in a checkout line and I'm taking too much time
Right.
to scan my milk, dude.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
I'm signing my kids away.
And I don't wish that upon anybody, but it's like if that was, if the judge is ever in that situation, it's almost like you want him to feel
Yeah.
what you're going through because it's like, damn, I hope you are never in the situation, but if you are,
Yep.
this is what you put other people through,
And
other men through.
yeah, I that is perfectly worded because as shitty as it is, that's exactly what it is. It's like
Hmm.
you were so quick to have somebody sign the rights over to their kids without knowing what it's like to sign the rights over to their kids.
Yeah.
And if I guess the one thing that I've learned in this past year and a half, whatever, is like my kids at the end of the day are going to know I'm not the bad guy.
Right.
My kids are going to know that I did not leave them because I wanted to.
Hmm.
That I have exalted every avenue that I could to keep them, and like I know things are going to get better. I know. It's just it's shitty when it's in somebody else's hands. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Yeah, you have no control.
yeah, like it's shitty when it's in somebody else's hands and it's in somebody else's hands that you have no idea who they are. They don't know your backstory, you don't know theirs. They don't know the entire complexity of the relationship. They're just assuming
Right.
they're just taking it for face value,
Yeah.
and it's just not fair.
Are you in New Jersey now
Yeah,
and are they still in Tennessee?
yeah,
Yeah, okay.
yeah. I mean, I didn't want that to happen, but it was just like I couldn't be there anymore. Like the
Yeah.
toxicity of everything, and then living in the same town as them and running into them Because like the thing was, is I asked the judge, I said, look, what if I run into my kids at the store? Like this is a small town. Like what if I run into the kids at the store and they say hi to me? He goes, you're not allowed to say anything. Well, that's
That's
well,
crazy.
that's not going to happen.
Right.
Like you can arrest me all
Wow.
you can arrest me on site if you want to. But if I see my
Yeah.
kids and my kids run up to me and hug me or say hi to me, do not in your right mind think that I'm going to look at my kids and walk the other way and not acknowledge them.
Right. And the crazy part too is like when you go back to the beginning of the story, it all happened over nothing. You know what I mean? Like you
Nothing.
literally did nothing, and she has gained
Everything.
everything from those false allegations.
Yep. And my mom, even when I was younger, my mom was like, David, there's just something about her. She goes, there's just something about her just doesn't sit right with me. And I was like, Mom, you don't, oh, stop it. Like,
Right.
oh, you don't really know her like that. She goes, David, I'm telling you. She goes, I cannot put my finger on it. She goes, but there's just something about her that I don't like. She goes, I will tolerate her because that is the mother of your children. And I will respect you and respect her because you guys are together. She goes, but she goes, David, I just don't know. She goes, I don't know what it is. And she was right.
Yeah, that's what's tough. Is like anytime you're in a relationship, you always have those friends, saying something in your
Yep.
ear, but no one ever wants to listen
Dude,
till it's too late.
yeah. And dude, you know what the crazy thing is? It's like the beginning of our relationship, I caught her talking to her ex-boyfriend.
Mm,
And like that's what I mean by red flags. Like talking to her
yeah.
ex-boyfriend. Um, he texted her one day and was like, "Hey, I hear congratulations is in line." And she's like, "What are you talking about?" And he goes, "I saw your mom and she said that you were pregnant and I just wanted to say congratulations." And she goes, "I'm not fucking pregnant." And she was pregnant with my first son at the time. And
Oh wow.
he goes, "Wait." He goes, "You're not pregnant with David's kids?" She's like, "I'm not pregnant with his fucking baby." Word for word, like in
To her ex.
to
Wow.
her ex. And I tried to have these we went to couples therapy and all that stuff, and like I've tried to explain this to her, and she's like, David, that's not what I said. And I'm like, I don't think you understand like how those type of words and those type of statements burn in your brain.
Hmm.
Like that's not something you forget. Like that's not something you just make up or change down the line. Like that's what was said, and I need you to man up, and I need you to say this is what I said and I'm sorry for it.
Right.
Like, and I
Yeah.
just never got it. So like it was just red flag after red flag after red flag. And here I am a year and a half without seeing my kids almost.
Yeah, man. I'm so sorry to hear that. And hopefully, how old are they now? 11 and 9,
They're 13.
or that was back then.
Yeah, they're 13 and 10 now.
13 and 10.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, man. That's like
Yep.
my kids actually, and it's still such a tough age. They need you,
Yeah.
and it's like, damn, for her to be holding that back and putting you through all this shit. That sucks for the kids.
Well, and my mom I also took this to court too because she texted my mom and my mom was like, why would you do this? Like, why would you do this? And she's like, Dave, she goes, I know David doesn't give a shit about this marriage. She goes, but I know he gives a shit about the kids. So like it was never like I even told her in court, like when we went to mediation, I said, look, like none of this needs to happen. Like keep the house, keep the cars, keep all of my shit. I don't care. Just give me my kids. There doesn't need to be any custody. Like if you want me to
Right.
give you money for the kids, I'll give. I don't need a court. I don't need a judge to be like, hey, you need to pay for your kids. Like I don't
Yeah.
need that. Like if you don't want to be in this relationship, we don't need to be in this relationship. We don't need to be married. You can go be with him. That's fine. Am I going to like it? Absolutely not. But I'll have my kids, so whatever.
Hmm.
And she just was not willing to do it. Like she knew taking my kids from me is what was going to hurt me the most.
Of course, and hurt you the most for doing nothing. It's not like you did anything. It's not like you cheated. It's not like you did anything, and that's what they do.
Dude,
That's wild.
yeah, man. It's been a fucking roller coaster, let me tell you, of emotions. It's I have, good days, bad days like anybody.
Yeah, of course.
It's just it's hard to like, for instance, me and my girl now, we went to Cape May the other day or last weekend, and we were there for the weekend. And it's so hard for me to do things that are fun because all I can think about is like I'm having fun, but my kids are hurting because I'm not there. So
Yeah.
like I
Yeah.
I never genuinely have a good time because I just feel like I'm wrong for doing so. Like I feel like my kids need me, and if I'm having fun and not putting all my focus into them, I feel like I'm doing something wrong.
Yeah, but a lot of people don't understand how hard the court system is. When you file something, you got to wait months to
Yep.
get in. Then you get in, and the judge just says, "Oh, well, we'll revisit this in a couple more months."
Mhm.
And like you go back, you got to pay your attorneys.
Yep.
I mean, it's just a money pit, but it's so
It's
difficult.
hard, dude. It's really hard.
Yeah,
And like you were saying earlier, I don't wish this upon anybody. Like
yeah,
it's such a like for a man can lose his job, a man can lose his house, his cars, his money, and he'll say, I'm gonna get it back," and he will. But like
hmm
you take a good father's kids from him, and that hits in a spot that nothing else will ever hit. Like you just shut down. Like
absolutely.
because now when you have your kids, you have something to work for. Not saying you don't.
hmm
Not saying you don't when they're not there, but it's like they're not physically there, so it's hard to keep that same energy because all you want is to get them back, but you got to work to get them back, but you don't want to work because you want to get them back. It's
Yeah,
a fucking cycle, man.
yeah.
It's I don't know. At this point, I don't know what to fucking do.
Well, I mean, all you got to do, man, is just keep working on yourself and getting yourself better. Because if you're, you know what I mean, if you're not better and if you fall back in that pit, it's not good for anybody.
Absolutely.
And it sucks, it sucks to say like, your kids will eventually understand and they'll know, but it's just like, damn, you got to go through all these years without seeing them, and then
Yep.
maybe they'll show up on your doorstep. But it sucks to hear that, but hopefully you can figure something out.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
I got a lawyer now. I got a lawyer now, and I'm going back to court. So I actually got to fly
And
out
you
there.
got to fly down. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yep. I got to go. I got to be down there in August, and that's kind of like our revisit to everything. And it's going to be a process, and I'm hoping that this lawyer actually does something. And it's exhausting, man. It's exhausting.
Yeah. Yeah, and now it's hard too because you live up here, so it's like what does the custody look like? You know what I mean? Because it's you live
Well,
far away than from them.
the thing is too is I didn't know this moving up here, but she spoke to my mom, and she's actually in the process of selling the house down there to move back up here
Oh,
around her
nice.
mom.
Yeah. Now, do you get anything from the house? Since are you guys officially divorced?
Yeah,
You don't get anything for the house since you both bought it?
I told the judge I didn't want anything. I wanted my kids off the restraining order.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
I sacrificed anything that I could have got because I wanted my kids. Money don't mean shit to me.
Yeah. And think of you would never hear a woman say that, and to show, I mean, what else can you show a judge that you want your kids more than anything? She can have everything.
Yep.
I just want my
Yep.
kids.
Yep.
I mean,
And that's what I told him. I said I don't want anything. I said I want my kids
yeah,
off the restraining order and everything else. I said if she wants a restraining order, I said give it to her. I said I don't care. I
yeah,
said I have no need to converse with her. Zero. And he gave her a restraining order with no findings. So there was no evidence for him to grant a restraining order. He just granted her one because I asked him to.
yeah,
Like so, you claim I beat you. You claim that I assaulted you. You claim that there was domestic violence in this whole thing, but you have never been to the hospital. You've never called the police. You've never had anybody say, "Hey, what is that mark on you?" Because
yeah.
I've never laid hands on you. Like you know what I mean? Like I just
It's so easy for women to do that, to claim something
yep.
false, and for it to get granted.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? You're at a disadvantage. It's just being a man. You're at a
Oh
disadvantage.
yeah.
They're not going to believe you at first.
And what I thought what was going to help me out is the sheriff that came to my house testified on my behalf, and it still didn't do shit. The
Wow.
judge asked him and was like, was there any signs of domestic violence? He said no. He goes, I had been on the force for about a little over 20 years. He goes, and I have been in some very, very, very messy domestic violence cases. He goes, I have been in places where women have been beaten to a pulp. He goes, I've been to cases where women have been thrown out windows, ran over with cars, beaten with sticks. He goes, their house, he goes, there was nicely folded laundry on the table. He goes, the house was clean. He's like, the kids were in the room playing their game. He goes, their room was, their bed was messy because they just woke up. He goes, but there was no holes in the wall. There was nothing broken. He goes, there was no
Yep.
sign of domestic violence. And in my mind, I'm like, yes, like this is it.
Right.
Like
Got him.
yes. And
Yeah.
nope, nothing.
Yeah. Oh, it's so frustrating too.
Yep.
It's so fucking
It's
frustrating.
just, what do you, I mean, like at that point in time, it's like, then what the fuck do I do?
Right.
Like,
Yeah. What else do I need to do or say?
you
Yeah.
literally have a law enforcement officer saying that I did nothing wrong, and you like dude, I'm mind boggled, man.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I know there's a lot of men out there, me as well, that feel your pain, and
Yeah,
we all went through some shit, and it sucks you're still going through it, man. So
for sure.
I hope you get some sort of custody, or you at least can see him and talk to him,
Yeah,
because
man.
that's your kids need it.
Oh, absolutely.
But yeah, man, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story, bro.
And
Thank
I
you.
appreciate you having me, man. Thank you so much. And I just hope, whoever's listening, man, I just hope I can help somebody, like shit. I mean, we all need somebody, at
Yeah,
this point. I mean, it's the laws against us, our ex-wives, our girlfriends are against us, like everything's like going against us. So like at this point, dads like us, like we just kind of come together, you know what I mean? Like have somebody who knows what you're going through, you
yeah,
know?
because when there's kids involved, they're just weaponized against you. So
Hmm.
it's tough.
It is, man.
Down, you can hold me down. You